Turo. T-U-R-O-T, exactement. Oui, c'est ça, exactement. Exactement.
Mon papa, mon feu papa, qui est parti après 7 ans, était vice-champion de tarot.
D'accord, ok. Bah, c'est dingue. Il devait jouer souvent.
Oui, beaucoup. Très très fort. C'est pas très amusant d'ailleurs de jouer avec lui.
Oui, parce que du coup. C'est My Serious Game.
My Serious Game. Et c'est à Tours, hein.
Oui. Avec un S pour le coup.
Ah oui. Tours.
Oui, exactement. On ne le prononce pas en France, mais.
Vous avez fait mon voyage?
Oui, très bien. Ouais, nickel.
TGV, nickel.
Oui, on a pris. Oui, il y avait un changement à Paris et un changement aussi à Genève.
Ah, vous n'avez pas pris le direct pour...
Ben, je sais pas. C'est pas moi qui me suis occupée des billets, donc j'avoue que j'avais pas regardé, effectivement. Il y a un direct normalement, Paris-Lausanne.
Ouais.
Ouais.
Et qui est je crois, il y a 4.
Ouais.
Mais
Bon, après.
au moins c'est bien.
Bah oui, c'est ça. Non, mais après, ça nous.
Ça va?
Ça, c'est très bien fait.
Pour le retour, comment?
Pareil, on a un train. Là, peut-être que c'est en direct pour le coup, parce que je crois qu'on a moins de changements. Donc.
Donc vous rentrez à quelle heure demain?
Par contre, on part très tôt, parce qu'on avait des impératifs dans l'après-midi, en fin de journée. Donc on part à 7h23, quelque chose comme ça. Ouais, non, du coup, pour le coup, on ne pourra pas rester.
C'est tout bon.
Merci. Eh bien, 14h tout pile.
14 tout pile. Ça roule là? D'accord.
So, hello everybody. We're going to start this new session about health. And first of all, we are very pleased to welcome our first invited guest, Aurélie Thureau, from the company named My Serious Game, no S, and from France in Tours with an S. And then the session will be animated by Stefano Canino. So please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm really pleased to be here to talk about our company and some of our products that we created for the health sector. So, first of all, maybe just a quick presentation of who we are. So, we were established in 2014, and we are a leading company of tailor-made digital training. So we work with a variety of clients and also from all sectors and industries. So we can talk about Bouygues, Vinci, also major French banks such as BNP Paribas. And we work also with public institutions For example, the French Ministry of the Defense, etc. So we work with them to create digital training solution using various technologies. So, for example, we can create serious game, of course, but we also can create 3D simulations. We can use also adaptive learning, rapid learning, etc. So a variety of technologies on our projects. At My Serious Game, so we also developed our expertise in the medical world, and today we have a dedicated department for this sector. So we work with hospitals, but also training institutions. We work also with health laboratories, for example, Sanofi, Servier. And with them, we create tailor-made digital solution by finding the best technology that would address the pedagogical issue they have. So we never start with the technology, but we start by asking ourselves what are the main pedagogical issue the clients want to address. And then after, we can propose a solution based on different technologies. So today, I would like to present you one of our best representative products. We called it if simulation. And to that, I just want to show you a quick video introduction, and then we can talk about it.
Immersing the nurse in a realistic 3D simulation, French solution if simulation is a new and innovative.
It's a bit strong. Can I control the... Sorry. Okay, perfect, thank you.
For the training of nurses. Born from the partnership between a team of nursing school teachers, doctors, and a French leader in digital learning, My Serious Game, if Simulation gives the nurses an opportunity to learn by trial and error. Specialized in drugs administration training, the solution's aim is to put into practice all the theory learned in school. It puts the nurses in different situations based on real cases, revolving around 5 topics: the administration of potassium, anticoagulants, insulin, small and very small packagings, and the application of medical prescriptions according to the various methods of administration. Each scenario always starts in the same manner, with the nurse instructor giving only 3 indications: the patient, his room, and the treatment. From there on, it's up to the nurse to prepare the right treatment. This innovative approach allows the nurse to develop the right habits and skills without being guided or directed. After all, learning from your mistakes is the best way to go. The simulation will also lead them to discover multiple environments: an institution for the elderly, an intensive care unit, a pediatric ward, or a neonatology unit, always highlighting the points of doubt and uncertainty that are part of the daily life of nursing staff. A detailed and precise tracking report is made available to the nurse and sent to the instructor, allowing the latter to efficiently identify the strengths and weaknesses of each nurse and to plan possible directions for improvement. Get in touch with the team behind if Simulation and get access to the first training simulation that was designed for the nurses by nurses.
In fact, the project is born from one simple principle: never the first time on a patient. In the current nursing school program, students had only 2 choices: whether they learn the theory in class or with classic digital training, and after they would train with a full-scale simulation, meaning directly on a mannequin. but it's really costly. So nursing school teachers started to think, what can we do to allow students to train and practice, but with less costs. So they had many issues regarding the project. Project issues actually for improving the quality of the training delivered. It was also for securing practices and minimizing unwanted events that could occur when students go in a hospital to work. But they had also technological issues, so the evolution of their approaches and their practices, the diversification of the tools they use to train their students, and also the adaptation to the targets, because students were more and more familiar with digital tools. So it was a good way to go on with the training. So if simulation is really the perfect match between pedagogy, technology, and expertise. At My Serious Game, we had the technological and pedagogical expertise, but we are not doctors, or we do not have medical staff in our team. So we needed to work closely with the nursing school teachers, the doctors, and also researchers to recreate the scenario, every scenarios that students would find within the simulation. So with if simulation, we wanted to have an immersive environment where students would navigate and discover different services and departments of an hospital. And we also wanted to make them we wanted to develop the autonomy of the students when they face some situations. So if simulation is more a digital simulation than a serious game as we can think of it. We do not guide the students when they have to do something, but rather we let them make their own decisions and actions. So if simulation is a ready-to-use solution, we can implement it in nursing schools right away. And it is built around 5 main topics, which I will present to you just after. And we also created 15 scenarios to that. These scenarios are progressive, and it goes with the development of the students through the nursing school program. They can access it off or online, so they can use it at any time, anywhere. And there is one part that is dedicated for the students with the access to all the scenarios and the access also to the different simulation reports. And they also they also have the capacity to access a dedicated platform for the teachers, where they would find some pedagogical materials to guide the students through all the simulation. So 2 different parts within the tool. So the first principle is learning by doing, which means that, again, the students are really in complete autonomy during the simulation. They can click on everything they see in the environment. They can choose to do this or this before going to the patient, etc. So the idea is to let them explore, discover the environment, and then take a decision. Following that, we have a second principle, which is learning by debriefing, because if simulation, it's part of a complete learning path where they have, first of all, the briefing with the teacher, then they can do the simulation, and after that, they have a debriefing with also the teacher. So the reports support the teachers to see what the students have done during the simulation, and so what they have done correctly or not. And it is very important that teachers have this debriefing session after the simulation so they can really understand what was the goal of the scenario and what they did right or not. So just for a quick view, the simulation reports are for each student, for each scenario, and for each trial, since the students can restart many times, as many times as they want, each scenario. So each time you have a report. And if I can just say what you can find in this report, you have also, so first of all, a global view. What is the scenario, how many times the student have done the scenario, etc. You have also a global view of what kind of skills and competencies the students have developed. And after that, you have more details about, for example, the prescription and other indicators that are more concrete for the students. So as I said, we also help the teachers going through the debriefing phase. So we have what we called a training kit. So they can find an introduction memo for the simulation to guide them, to guide the students all along the simulation. And they can find also so a guide for the debriefing, an expected actions grid, so what the students should do during a specific scenario, the ideal simulation path, and a reading grid for each simulation report. So with all of that, teachers are really independent when they propose a simulation for their students. So here you have the big picture of what are the 5 main topics. So we have the first topics is the administration of potassium, then anticoagulant, insulin, small and very small packaging, and finally, application of medical prescriptions. So I would not tell you exactly what the scenarios are, but you have several scenarios for each topic, and for each topic you have specific skills to develop. So you have pedagogical objectives to reach. And to make it more concrete, I will show you just quick video that are representative to one scenario, the administration of potassium. So for example here, remember that the students had only a few indications before starting. I think we gave him like the name of the patient, the number of the room, and sometimes we gave him some indication about the actual treatments. So the students, first of all, has to find additional information to know if the treatment is correct, if the medical prescription is correct too, etc. So for that, there is an access to the patient file on the computer, and which is actually a real interface from a real tool used in a hospital. So they can search and look for other information and decide whether or not the actual treatment, the actual medical prescription is good. After that, students have the opportunity to discuss with the nursing tutor. The tutor is here to help them when they get stuck, for example, if they didn't find the right information. But the tutor is also here to approve the decision or an action. As it is in the real life, nursing students are not always the final decision makers. So we let them get the action and decision approved by a tutor. And as you see it, after having the decision approved, they can look for the right treatment by opening closets and other things. And so they have to find the right treatment, but they also have to prepare the treatment correctly. So everything is simulated in this environment. Then it's time to meet the patient. So the students can open the right door, of course. And here you can see that students have many actions to do before administering the treatment. Just simple things like say hello, make sure this is the right patient, take the vital parameters or something like that. Everything is tracked, and this is a real base for the debriefing after that. So, like I said, they ensure the vital parameters are okay, and after that, they can administrate the treatment. And finally, after that, they have to close the patient file on the computer. So once again, they have many actions to do. They should complete the patient file, make additional comments, etc. So once again, everything is tracked, and everything will be part of the report they will have after the simulation. So this is an example of a report. And as I said, you have various indicators, so global ones, but after you have also more details about what they did exactly, and if it's right or not, if there is some skills that are not enough improved, etc. And with that, they can have the debriefing session with the teacher. So today, HIF simulation is implemented in several nursing schools. So the product works, and we see that students are really satisfied with this new method to train. We can also see that nursing schools re-engage from year to year with the solution. And what is important to remind is that this simulation can evolve also. We can create other scenarios. We can adapt some scenarios if something changed, for example, the regulation or other things. So it's really interesting to have this kind of product to train, but not in full scale, but to train before going in a real hospital with real patients. So this is one of our bestseller, if I can say. But we also have other projects in the health sector. So, for example, Caponco is a product for pharmacists. It's based on the adaptive learning principle. In that case, it's to train pharmacists to conduct some interviews with their patients who are dealing with cancer. Today, they need to conduct this kind of interviews, and sometimes they do not know exactly how to do it. So we created a solution, a digital simulation to do that. So it's about the posture, the attitude, and the communication skills that pharmacists need to develop. But it's also about technical knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge about the treatment, because it changes every time. So it makes them aware of some change or something like that. And it's an adaptive learning because every choice they make, every time they make a decision, the scenario will change. So we do not end the scenario in the same way if they don't make the same decision during the simulation. It's really to see the impact of their choices at the end of the interview and at the end of when the patient comes to them. A third project, sorry, is called Premier Pas, which uses virtual reality, and it's for nursing assistant students. So this time, we have a complete solution because you have 30 minutes in serious game, classic serious game on computer or other devices. You have also 30 minutes in virtual reality with virtual reality solution. And then again, 30 minutes with a serious game on computer. So it's really complete, and it's for each treatment that nursing assistants needs to know. It's more about knowing the care process that they should know for the future. So once again, it's for the posture, the attitude they should have when they work for the future work they would have, job they would have. And the virtual reality is really helping when they have to train on gestures. For example, we can train them on carry a patient from his bed. So it's really helpful in that case, and it allows them to be immersed a lot in this kind of environment and for this kind of gestures. These products are also implemented and they are used by our clients today. So we can also see that it works and it completes the actual training that the students or staff or medical staff have actually. So I was quick, but thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate. No question?
I will help you coordinating the question session.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for this presentation. It's really impressive, especially practically. I was just wondering which of these projects you presented are simulations and which are serious games, and how do you in your company, how do you distinguish between them, and how do you sell those to clients or to partners, saying there is a real game aspect, and because the first you presented is more a simulation with the scenario, but I don't see a lot of feedbacks, trophies, competition, progression.
No.
I just for our public online, just to repeat the question in a shorter way. So no problem. The question is that in your presentation you presented simulation and serious games. So how do you deal about that? You make distinction. Is the serious aspect in the or the gaming aspects always a benefit or sometimes a drawback? How do you see that?
Yeah. So again, we always start from the pedagogical objectives of our clients. So, and it depends also of the target we want to reach. So for if simulation, indeed, it's more like a digital simulation than a serious game itself, because the goal, the objectives were to train them like if they are in real life. So in real life, you do not have a trophy when you take care correctly of a patient or something. So we wanted to make the immersion really close to the real life. So I agree, it's more like a digital simulation. For other projects, we can add some gamification to make the solution more attractive and more fun, if I can say. But it really depends on the pedagogical objectives and also on the targets we want to reach. Is it enough clear? Or?
Yeah, it's quite clear, but then I'm just wondering why is it called my serious game and not my simulation?
Okay, if simulation is not our only products, actually it's really a question that occurs always. Our name do not reflect what we do actually, because we do a lot of things, not only simulation or digital simulation, but also other things, and so it's just our name, but it's not what we do.
So with if simulation, the goal was never the first time, if I understood correctly. And I was wondering if you use if simulation to create somehow realistic scenario at a realistic frequency to really prepare them, or on the other side to create extreme scenarios that would be hard to face in real life or that would take decades into face. And that's, I have then a second question based on that. If it's to expose them to two extreme scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't it harm them in the sense that they're not really prepared for the reality, or I don't know, the reality became boring?
Mm.
Or on the other side, if it's too realistic scenario with the realistic frequency, even the game boring? I mean, it's just a question I asked myself. So I would like to know your opinion.
So, to summarize your two questions. So, the first one, I already forget your first question. Please.
So, is this scenario made realistically based on the realistic frequency of the patient, let's say, or are there extreme situations like in Dr. House, everything is apparently realistic, but really with low probability or something like that?
So the question is in the different scenarios simulator that you are developing, are your simulation close to reality? Sometimes you have something that is more extreme. And what is the impact also on the user anyway? And then if you have something extreme, are the users then good in reality? Yeah.
Yeah. So we write the scenarios based on realistic situations. We worked with doctors and nursing school teachers, and we base these scenarios on what they what they learn and on actual role playing, for example. So it's not something like which is too extreme or not enough realistic. It's really realistic situations that could occur in the real life. So we thought that this was the best way to prepare them before going in a hospital and take care on their patients.
Yassine?
My question is not technical nor it's a business question. You are developing something which is, in my opinion, dedicated for hospitals or schools, etc. So you are a private company. It means that in France you are already in the situation where public institution or administration or schools are mandating private sector to develop such things, which is a good news, but I'm astonished. Is it the case?
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, but the question was.
Because here in Switzerland, every time we have nice idea, we have nice project, etc. But when we come back to financing, we have nothing. Everything is,
No.
especially for such initiative, it's difficult to find the good instrument, etc. And I rarely see public institution or public hospitals, etc. Perhaps private, okay, but public, yeah, investing in such things, which is, as I said, good news. So the market is already ready for that,
Yeah.
and you have.
And we do that not only in the health sector, but also, you know, with other public institutions. I talked about the French Ministry of the Defense, etc. We work with public institutions, and they called us because they do not have the technical expertise to do that with their own staff. So, and they have some financings and others to help them to invest in this kind of projects.
Okay, I think we have a few questions from the YouTube.
Yes, there was two questions from YouTube. One said, I've read that you give the pedagogical objectives before the clinical case, when normally it is the debriefing that allows to bring to the objectives. Can you explain the pedagogical interest? And secondly, what is the point of having doctors create the scenarios when the nursing teachers are trained to do so?
Yeah, for the first, no, okay.
You can go ahead.
For the first one, I would say we gave the pedagogical objective to the teachers, who will have to explain to the students how the simulation works. We do not give it to the students directly before they start the simulation. So I think it answers the first question. For the second one, I forget it.
What is the point of having doctors
Yeah.
create the scenarios when there is nursing teachers that are trained to
Yeah.
do so?
We wanted to have as much as expertise we could to create, again, realistic situations. And nursing school teachers were really happy to work with and to collaborate with others, medical staff, to write these scenarios. Again, it's maybe a little more complex to think of all the details we need to have in this simulated environment that make it in a role-playing in a classroom or something like that. So doctors and also researchers were really key points in creating these scenarios.
A small technical question.
Yeah.
In your team, are you using always Unity engine to develop your products?
So we have now a short technical question about the engine that you are using to develop. Is it Unity or something else?
So I'm not a technical expert, but we use many times we use Unity, but I should know that we have also other tools to develop some kind of simulation. But I'm sorry, I would not tell you what they are. But I know that we use also other things. But frankly, most of the time it's Unity.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for the presentation. I think I got it, but in each simulation product, this is a desktop product.
Is it a desktop
sorry.
product? No problem. Is it a desktop product?
Yeah, students use generally the application on their computer, but we create like simulation that can also be accessible from other devices. So, for example, tablet, iPad, or something.
Actually, my
Okay. No.
as a comparison to the second product, I mean the last one, Omnitra, that is fully immersive, that allows full body movement, training, these kind of skills. But so, are you suggesting it's not that important to train full body movement for the type of activity that are handled through if simulation?
No, we did not have we did not think that virtual reality, for example, was really adapted for this kind of activities because with if simulation, we want students like take decisions, make like actions that they can do directly with a computer. So it's immersive because the hospital is simulated, so you can have the impression you are in the hospital, but we do not have the need to make them really with the virtual reality thing. So, Clément, tu veux?
And also, yeah, I would like to add from my students. I'd like to add that the students actually train on their personal computers. So you have to imagine a full classroom of students with, playing the game. It's not a game, but the simulation on their computer. So they would not be able to, pay for VR. Equipment for each student, so it's also easier for them to
Yeah.
train.
It was the best compromise for this kind of projects.
So yeah, the focus is procedural knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
If I can, another question, also general question. I think you have selected the three examples because the theme of this day is health-oriented application. But can you give us, as developers and company who are working with all kind of public and clients, where serious gaming and gamification are evolving and used the most, so except health.
Okay.
Just so you have presented three examples, and the question is, so you probably develop other application, other domains, and in which domain serious gaming application and gamification are also interesting beyond health?
Yeah. Honestly, I do not have the right KPIs, but I think we create this kind of projects for every industries and every sectors. We do not have one domain or one sector that ask us to always to create this kind of project and not some others. So it's really cross-sector, cross-industry. It's more it depends on the topic and the subject they want to address, but it's for every industry, every sectors. We do not have one sector that is most applying this kind.
Please.
Again, if simulation, I saw the interaction with
application is through text.
Yeah.
And did the customer express some case where audio would make sense?
Yes.
So in the if simulation, the interaction with the user is with a textual-based interaction. Do you think also other kind of way of interact, like voice, could be interesting?
Yeah, we could add some voiceover um, to make it maybe more real, but it's always better to have something that is written because of the device which is used or something like that. We really advise our client to write it, but if they want, we can also add some voiceover to say the text which is on the screen. So yeah, Clément.
Yeah, and again, that will make a hell of a racket in the classroom, you know. But yeah, and it's actually a lot of content as well. So that would be a lot more expensive
Yeah.
for the client as well.
For this project, it had not be a real value added to have voiceover.
Okay, so
I think there is just one more.
okay. There are two questions more. So ladies first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think you understand the question better than me, so if you can repeat, it could be better.
Yeah, so actually, so today it's a French simulation with French protocols, French name from prescription, etc. But we can make it evolve and change some of the protocols, some of the name for prescription, etc. It will take some time and some additional budget to do it, but it's feasible and it's something maybe one day we would do for one client. So it's not closed. We can open our product to other protocols and other country actually. So it would, for the translation, it would not be automatic. We would have to rewrite the scenarios so translate the scenarios in a language or something, but we can do it also. And maybe it could be a good thing to have at the beginning of the simulation the choice of the country, the choice of the language, etc., to have it centralized in one platform, but for many countries, many languages. It could be one solution, yeah, and it's feasible.
Stefan?
Thank you so much. So far, so good. I will ask a tricky question.
Oh my God.
So that's a tricky question.
Yeah, you talked about virtual reality as a very efficient tool, I would say, and promising tool. From my knowledge, well, interaction in virtual reality is very tricky. So I would like you to tell us what you think is the hardest stuff to simulate or to do in terms of interaction in virtual reality in your context.
Okay, so the tricky question is, so the interaction in virtual reality is quite complex because it's not like interactive real world. So what do you think, which are the parts that are the most difficult to have in your application?
Yeah, I think as we said earlier, it's maybe feeling the emotion of of the people we are talking to or the people we are interact with. Maybe it's the most maybe impossible things to do with a digital simulation or a virtual reality solution. But today, we are not so limited to the kind of interaction we want to add to our solution, even if it's not like you do that in the real environment, but you can simulate it and make the learners prepare to do that in the real life, and also make them more, comment on dit, les rassurer, make them more more comfortable with the kind of interaction, of the kind of action they can do. Clément, I don't know if you want to say something about this tricky question.
Yeah, I think that virtual reality is very useful when you are in a very technical situation, that you have to train somebody to do technical things. But those simulations, especially if simulation, is very theory, based on theory. So VR is not necessarily the best way to learn on that case. But for the other one, where we trained, Premier Pas, where we train our nursing students to do technical movements, how to move the patient or stuff like that. It is tricky. I cannot talk for the technical, the developers and everything, how they did that. But we, of course, we worked with the professionals, and they tested the solution themselves to make sure that everything was realistic, and that the fake patient was handled the right way. Is that a good answer to your question?
Yeah, you point out where the direction I was thinking of, especially how to train. How is it possible to train with touch and even with current haptic systems?
Yeah.
It's almost impossible, especially in a field where precise movement is very important.
Yeah, but we are actually used to, in other environments, other industries, like we are currently working, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it,
I don't
but
know.
a really huge company in France working with railroads, and we are training their staff on the new trains, and the engines, which are extremely technical engines with very small parts and everything, and they have to learn how to work on it with VR, and I don't think we developed haptic systems for them, but
it's pretty much developed, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But it's more about giving them the right habits, the right reflex.
Habits and
Yeah.
skills.
So they will be able to do it in the real life. We know that with virtual reality they will not carry a patient for real, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
But it's enough to give them the right habits, and to integrate, to acquire the right skills to do that in the real life after that.
Yeah, and this is something that was said this morning. It's a kind of first step. Like it's actually the name of the solution.
It's
but
not the only one.
it is important to make the student at ease with all the movements and how to deal with the patient virtually before they actually do it for real. But like we said this morning, you cannot fly a plane safely with someone who only did it virtually. So this is just the first step for students that are just learning the theory.
So I think we are at the end of this first keynote speech. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much.
So there's a small gift for you.
Thank
and,
you.
This is mainly stuff from Switzerland.
Yeah, perfect.
It would be about small mechanics, about chocolate,
Oh,
about
yeah, chocolates.
alcohol
Oh.
from the regions, and so on.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Thank you.
Okay, so in few minutes we start the next session. We have 5-7 minutes of break just to set up all the technical aspects, and so enjoy a short break.
And oui, tu peux le remettre. Juste, hop. Oups, c'est pas ça. Tac. And don't forget, nobody found it. Yes. There's quite a big gift for the first one who find the sentence. Which one?
GS'21.
This.
Ouais.
So you don't want to play the video, you show the PowerPoint.
Ou les deux.
Non, pas les deux. Non, non, pas les deux.
Ok.
C'était un enregistrement,
Ah.
mais comme je suis là,
Autant le faire en vrai, puis la
Bah
vidéo,
ouais.
je la garderai pour le site.
par
peut-être.
exemple. Ouais. Oui, on peut faire ça. Pas grave. Merci. Je récupère ma clé peut-être comme ça.
Oui,
je
oui,
n'oublie pas.
ça, c'est bon. Oui, oui, bien sûr.
Le
bien sûr.
classique.
Et la caméra et le microphone.
Hello. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't talk a lot, but I can hear you too. Yeah.
Okay.
I will just check if what we're talking is already on the room, but that's not the case. Okay, perfect. How are you?
I'm okay, fine.
Perfect. Steph, tu nous entends?
Là, si je parle, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, hello. So, if you are just Julian, Julian, if you try to speak, via Zoom. Ah, no, if they are speaking, we can't hear.
On arrive bien à s'entendre.
Is it okay to make the presentation from the Zoom?
I don't know why. Here I can't hear you. We are trying to see why. Now maybe it's okay. Can you try again to speak, please?
Yes, can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I think that we can start in 1 second. Thank you. Yeah. So at least I can add the last presentation. It's on.
Okay, I think I'm the third speaker. Okay.
Okay, just if you were to introduce this third health session here. So we will have this afternoon 4 papers. 2 of the presenters are online. The first one, Alice, that will start with the first presentation. And then we have 2 speakers that are online, Alberto and Christos, that are already connected. You can see them on Zoom. So welcome, Alberto and Christos, that are already connected.
Hello.
You can see them. Hello. Hello, Alberto. Christos, can you hear us?
Perfect for me.
Hello. Christos, I think your microphone is off now, so it's not important, but later on you have to turn it on.
Okay, I have turned it on, but I have an echo.
Okay, we will see about the echo later. Maybe the microphone over there.
No, I think I have to turn off the YouTube channel voice.
Okay. So maybe there is a little bit of delay on that. So welcome, and the last speaker is Loic that I saw before. And so, okay, let's start. So we start with the live presentation now from Alice from the EWAG, so here in Switzerland, and she will present the first paper. So we move to the presentation. Alice, I leave you the microphone.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, welcome everyone for this afternoon session, and I'm glad to present you this project that is, I have to say, already non-digital about gamifying face-to-face interview on latrine use in rural India. So in low and middle income countries, face-to-face interviews are rather common to collect data that are useful for social science studies, but also health research. And usually these face-to-face interviews are preferred because they bypass sometimes technological constraints, but also sometimes low literacy rates from respondents. However, these interviews can be complex, tedious, and very long, and sometimes on an easy topic, and in particular, for instance, when measuring the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals number 6, which is about the availability and management of water and sanitation for all. And so such 45-minute long face-to-face interviews were planned in a project to promote latrine use in rural India using the RANAS approach for systematic behavior change. In this context, in this project from my co-author, Max Friedrich, a trained local data collector was asking the questions about the latrine use and the RANAS approach to the respondents and entered directly all the answers on a database. And to improve the respondent experience during this very long interview, we gamified the interview. So here I have to say that the main purpose of the gamification was really to improve the experience for these long face-to-face interviews on this uneasy topic of latrine use. But importantly, the gamification here was not about the behavioral behavioral change, and on the contrary, actually, it should not interfere with the intervention about promoting latrine use in rural India. So these were the constraints about our objectives for this project about gamifying the interviews. And so the interviews was the gamification was really the aim remained about collecting actually the relevant data that were necessary for this project. And practically, it should not relate, as I said, on latrine use topic, and it should be punctual, so for the time of the interviews, and not be mixed up with the interview, with the content about latrine use and the behavioral change, so only have a short-term effect. And it should not increase at length the interview itself, because the aim is that it was already a long interview on an easy topic. And it should be low cost, easy to implement for the data collector that is on the field, but also accessible for all the respondents, so not requiring any minimum literacy level. So with all these constraints, these were about the gamification. But at the same time, we also wanted to systematically assess the proposed gamification. And for this, based on the literature, we used the basic psychological need theory, and it suggests that fulfilling the 3 needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness increases the well-being and performance at tasks. So specifically, in our case, we derived the following research questions. Did the respondent experience the interview positively or more positively when it is gamified than when it is not? What was the gamification effect on the experience mediated by fulfilling the needs of competence and relatedness, which were the 2 needs that we targeted in the gamification? And was the gamification effect moderated by the respondent's ability to complete the puzzle? So now, what did we offer as gamification for this interview? Given the constraint that I mentioned, and following Marshall's method for gamification, we propose to intertwine the interview with the completion of a puzzle. So after each of the 20 sections of the interviews on the latrine use and the behavioral change, the participants were given by the data collector a piece of a puzzle. So it was as simple as this, basically, and thereby we hope that it created a break in this very long and tedious interview, a break, and as well as an exchange, so relatedness between the interviewer, the data collector, and the respondent on the field, as well as, because the image was progressively building up and obviously was finished when the interview was finished, giving a sense of progress throughout the interview. So that would be this progress bar that we have on online surveys, but like materialized during the process of the interview. And upon completion, that should also trigger the needs for competence, feeling of the image. In the end, the people were seeing a couple into a greeting pose that was actually symbolizing also the end of the interview. So after validation of the concept with the Indian partner, the image were color printed on A4 format, colored, cut it into 20 square pieces of similar size. And during pre-test, we observed actually that some respondents had difficulties as they were actually doing a puzzle for the first time. So we had in the pre-test to also indicate to the data collector to help and to support the respondents into building up the puzzles in case they were facing difficulties. Yeah, and we also noticed that they had difficulties, so we also added a small bird in the corner in the first 2 pieces to actually have people realize that they were actually building an image by receiving each of the pieces. So basically an example on the first 2 pieces of this idea of building the image in general. The data collectors in the pretest actually were themselves quite satisfied and confident about the positive aspects that it brought them, at least like giving a break and this exchange with the respondent. So we were quite confident and we went on, and between March and April 2018, we measured to test the gamification with a 5-minute interview that was added to the very long interview on latrine use and behavioral change. We measured on single items our how this experience was perceived, and the items, we had items for each of the needs that we targeted, so relatedness and competence. As well as some questions about the fact, and this was given by the data collector, whether respondents were able to actually play or build up the puzzle or not, or did not receive the puzzle in the case of our control arm with 142 participants. And overall, we had 1,124 respondents with the gamified treatment. And on the results, so we were quite disappointed actually, because with all these data, we observed that respondents in the gamified interviews did not have a better interview than those in the non-gamified treatment, despite the expectations that we had after the pretest in particular. But good news is that we may know why, given the answers of the second question, is that the gamification that we proposed did not have much effect on the feelings of competence and relatedness, which are in turn meant to provide, and this we could verify, modulate, or have a positive correlation with the perceived experience. So yeah, the gamification that we proposed did not have much effect on these basic psychological needs, but the basic psychological needs explains the mechanism of perceiving the experience well in their interview, so also suggesting that this theory would be useful for further studies about gamification. And finally, not being able to complete the puzzle had a negative effect on the feeling of competence, which is not big surprise. If you don't manage to do something, then you have a negative feeling, but in turns, it also had a negative impact on the experience. So in the case, in that case, yeah, the gamification actually was counterproductive. But overall, yeah, the proposed gamification of interview was promising, but as we have learned, after all, should be optional, and the effects depended on the ability of the respondents to actually being able to make a puzzle, and could backfire. Luckily, we could say in our case it was only 16% of the respondents, so the big majority actually had at least as good experience as in our control. So yeah, and for future perspective, so we think in our case we really want to stress that pretesting was very useful. I think in general, but in that case as well, because like otherwise we would not have seen even that people were doing puzzles for the first time, for instance. And obviously also cultural considerations are also very important for effective gamification design. And yeah, we also invite people maybe to have similar rigorous evaluation of the gamification as we have done in this study. And yeah, but I have heard this also here many times, it's not one size fits all, and it's more subtle than this, and you have a lot of these personality traits also that enter into play, and I think this should be considered to design more effective gamification. And of course, yeah, as we mentioned, our gamification as well, per se, the puzzle and the image, changing the image maybe would have been interesting, having irregular shapes in the puzzles to help the participants also further proceed with the puzzle would be also perspective that would improve the tool that we have used. And with that, I am done, and I'm happy to answer questions, if any.
Yes.
So, question is, we are here living in a culture where time has got a different value from what it possibly is in India. So, to me, conducting an interview for an hour might be boring. But maybe in a different culture, being an interviewee might actually be quite exciting in itself. Or do you know for definite that an interviewee in India thinks it's too much time to spend or it's boring for them?
So just to repeat the question is about the cultural differences between maybe Switzerland and India. Maybe in Switzerland, spending 1 hour answering questions can be perceived as boring, but maybe in another culture like in India, the same process can be perceived differently. And the idea is, have you any feedback about that?
So unfortunately, I have not carried out the experimental work on the field, so I'm not sure, I cannot tell about my own perception for this study. But I think in this particular case, it's not only the time that was, so to say, constrained, but it's talking about latrine use. So how you defecate. I think this is something that none of our culture are really open about it. And in that sense, this is still a difficult time where you have to talk about rather intimate things. And about the time, I can't answer really, but it was also in this specific case an easy topic, I think.
Okay, we have one question from YouTube.
No, it's from me.
It's directly from you. Okay, sorry.
I have the same question regarding the game itself. Is puzzle a fun game for Indian culture people? Is it something they play on? Maybe they find it too childish, or maybe there is other more usual brain teaser they use in the culture. Why did you settle for puzzle precisely?
So the question is why a puzzle was chosen as a game, because maybe in India there are other games that are more used. They are not so used maybe in puzzles. Maybe there are other points that are more games. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this question. So we had quite a long brainstorming phase with my colleague Max. And we also checked like what are popular games in India, and one very popular is named Karom. And we thought about ways how to tweak the rules of these games, and because we thought this would be something they would be familiar with. And in the end, we have thought of many different solutions. And then we had actually, how did we make the decision a little bit, was like we had all the different pre-ideas in a word table with all arguments, and how we think each of the game and the gamification connected to this interview would target each of our needs, of these needs from the basic psychological needs. And basically, we chose for the solution that we thought had the most pluses on the different needs that we wanted to target. Plus, I have also to say, we had no specific funds for this project, so it had to be also very low cost. And printing on A4 cardboard is something very cheap, so there was no production cost basically. And it needed to be something easy to transport to the places, and it should have almost no, we we could not offer to have some learning phase, to have people come in the game or in the gamification. So that all in all, that was the most practical solution that was targeting most of the needs that we thought would have an effect. But yeah, as was said this morning, it's really a balance you have to find on the different objectives that you have. Yeah.
Thank you a lot. I think one last question then.
Just a remark. Thank you for putting the BPM theory in focus. I think it's in the field of gamification and sales game, it's really a lack actually. And I think we should interest more on these subjects.
Thank you.
Okay, the observation was just that have a strong background theoretically. It's a good point for our papers. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
I'll call you again for the round table later. So we can move to the second speaker. So we can move and go on Zoom. So the second speaker is Alberto Parada from the University of Liège in Belgium, and he will present directly from Zoom, and I directly leave the microphone to him. So welcome.
Welcome. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. I begin, if you are agree.
You can start. You can share your screen and go on.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be with you, and I thank you for the welcoming me to this conference during this session dedicated to the serious game in health. I will present you an immersive medical interview simulator project to improve patient-doctor communication and develop emotional intelligence during a medical interview. Here is the plan and the topics I will discuss with you.
Alberto, sorry. We don't see your screen. We have just the camera.
Oh, sorry. I resolve the problem immediately. I try to resolve it.
There is probably a green button at the bottom of the screen.
Okay. Is it correctly like this?
Perfect. Yeah, now we see all the slides. Yeah, we just...
Okay.
Bottom right.
In the button?
Yeah.
Go down?
1 centimeter down.
That's me, huh?
Okay.
So, okay. I can click that. Okay, it's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. You heard me?
Yes.
Too. Okay. I begin. Thank you very much. Sorry for the first problem. I'm very happy to be with you, and I will present you an immersive medical interview simulator project to improve patient-doctor communication and develop emotional intelligence during a medical interview. Here is the plan and the topics I will discuss with you, probably too succinctly and superficially, and I apologize in advance for this frustration. We will end with a short video sequence that will give you an idea of the serious game to develop, which we continue to enrich. Emotional intelligence is an underdeveloped aspect in medical training. It remains a fundamental communicative competence, probably more for the doctors. Three emotional reactions are natural: fight, flee, leave, avoid, or paralyze. The emotional intelligence allows to actually connect and synchronize the rational and emotional present in each one. Do not let the emotional overwhelm the rational. And the brain works best through repetition. Each game played equips and improves the mastery of emotions and their context, which could materialize in the game by levels of difficulty, score, certificates, or rewards. Serious play thus allows this capacitation and this empowerment, personalized training, and in a controlled manner. The solution is to adapt to circumstance, context, and people without ever compromising on what matters. This is perhaps herein lies the major challenge of the serious game. Be careful not to confuse intelligence quotient, emotional intelligence, and personality, which do not involve the same skills and abilities even though they are closely related. We focus on emotional intelligence. We must focus on specific skills. We have identified some that serve as the backdrop to the serious game that we are developing. Emotional intelligence is made up of 4 fundamental skills. As an illustration, here are some tips to improve: self-awareness, knowing one's strengths; self-management, that charge and decide for yourself; and always by way of illustration, here are some tips to improve: faculty or fact of making value judgments on one's own action and on society, and supervising and maintaining the relationships between a physician and his patient. I will not expand the resources available to improve emotional intelligence. It's not the theme. To summarize, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and understand emotions, to manage your behavior and relationships. Competence can be developed and improved. The 4 areas of emotional intelligence skills are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. There are resources to assess and objectify emotional intelligence. Let's focus on a fundamental aspect of medical performance. It's the communication. Our simulation game is based on the concept of Meyler's pyramids behavior to support clinical training. The serious game is a learning space, protected, free, self-determined, which is a part of a framework and a predetermined and reflective context according to the learning objectives set. We envision 7 categories of skills. We are also, of course, interested in the lived, felt, and emancipation of the player, learning physician. The continuing education of doctors, but also the therapeutic education of patients, have been revolutionized by the use of innovative technologies. Virtual reality and the serious game in health are now acclaimed by all stakeholders and for a wide variety of use. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability for people to recognize, understand, and perceive emotions effectively in everyday life. Experts on emotional intelligence group these skills into 4 main categories. A tool to improve emotional intelligence while playing and have fun. This is the resume of our serious game objectives. The 4 pillars of learning lead to increased reasoning. The concept of serious medical games to be pinned are Deliberate practice, voluntary training, or learning practices. When you embark on a complex task, you are not naturally good at it. Practice allows you to master it. The trial, the error, the correction, retry loop allows progressive control. The player acquires, develops, and masters abilities, personal skills, or learning goals. Adopting a reflective and critical posture allows medical learners to reflect and position their practice, their clinical practice. Socio-cognitive interaction allows knowledge to be deepened or enriched. All information is socially connoted. Cognitive activity is triggered, facilitated, or inhibited by social variables. Socio-cognitive processes are cognitive processes whose implementation involves the existence of a representation of a social conditions of their development. And the personalization of learning, each learner is different and unique at his own pace, his abilities. The personalization of learning is allowed by the serious game everyone plays, learns at their own level. We want to focus on the communication skills to be developed rather than the doctor's ability to make a diagnosis. We are working on a serious game that stimulates a medical consultation from an emotional skills perspective. First, the player, using his immersive avatar, assumes the role of the doctor. Later, he could take the roles of the patient. The scenario is based on the 5 phases of the medical consultation. Each scenario has a profile patient and a profile doctor, which are closely related to the expected emotional skills in a context and an environment defined previously. Verbal and non-verbal language is used. Studies an impact of emotions. Actions and interactions overlap and influence each other with effects and impacts on the different medical skills required. I think this is a little video. Is it right? We seek to develop a serious game that simulates medical consultation from the perspective of emotional competencies and focus on the analysis of verbal and non-verbal language. You are going to see a prototype which does not yet benefit from the sound, the speech of the avatars. Speech and words will be colored by the speaker's emotions in addition to bodily and facial expressions, of course. Sorry, it's not very amazing without sound, but I'm not prepared to. You can observe the facial emotions, and the intonation of voice is too important. I think that's all. And at the end, the players, the doctor or the patient, could fill a formula with their perception of emotions and what they have seen during the serious game in which they have played. That's all. It's the same formula for doctors and the patients. Here are some landmarks and points of attention. And we can define and parameters anticipatively the emotions of the interlocutor avatars, and we plan to couple the emotions of the player, perhaps with sensor or video analysis of facial movements. It's a dream. Here is a brief overview of the relationship between the 5 facets of emotional intelligence and the 25 emotional skills identified, used in parallel for the teaching of the game. Technology-enhanced learning, TEL, I say TEL later, generally aims to be flexible, engaging, learner-centered, and interactive. And it can involve collaboration and communication. TEL is ideal for busy clinicians, both as learners and teachers. TEL allows participants to learn at a time and a place that they suit them. It takes a systematic approach to planning, development, implementation, and evaluation. Here are 10 helping principles. Here is the analytical model used to validate our game. And here is the summary of the framework and the theoretical and educational positioning of our serious games. And things.
Sorry, okay.
And that's
perfect
for you.
Your timing was perfect. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
So, do you have time just for one question? I don't know if
okay.
There are questions.
I do have a question.
We have one question.
Do you consider it really more like a simulation or more like a serious game?
It is for you more a simulation or a serious game?
Sorry, I haven't not
It
clear
is
understood.
A simulation or a serious game? What are you doing?
It's the both, a mix of both. First of all, it's a serious game, and it progressively transforms in simulation, in augmented simulation.
So it could be called a gamified simulation. What do you think?
Perhaps, thank you.
Okay, thank you a lot again.
Thank you very much.
Stay online. I will need you again for the roundtable later.
No problem, later.
Okay, so the next presentation is from Christos. Welcome again. Yes, send us.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, it's okay. We see your screen.
Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yes. You can start when you want.
Okay. Thank you. So my name is Christos Goumopoulos. I'm an associate professor in the University of the Aegean in Greece. And the work I will present has the title, A Game Platform for the Cognitive Stimulation of Elderly with MSI. MSI stands as mild cognitive impairment. This work has been carried out with my colleagues Georgios Kikos and Alexandros Fakis. And this has been done in the context of a research and development project called CogniPlat. Okay. This is the structure of the presentation. I will first discuss the context and the target issue of this work. Then I will give an outline of the game's platform design methodology. And also I will give quickly some insights from the game tool evaluation, mainly in terms of assessing system usability. And there is also a small video, a demonstration of the current system, with some aspects of how we developed. Now, there are many studies that have shown that the global population aged 60 years or over will reach nearly 2 billion in the coming years. And also there's expected that a cognitive decline may affect up to 20% of them. So this brings new challenges in how to improve the independence and quality of life for the elderly people. Mild cognitive impairment, which is the topic of our work, is defined as a state of a cognitive performance below of what is expected for an age and an education level, but above a pathological level. So MSI patients may forget important information which previously was recalled, such as meetings, conversations, or recent events, but continue to exhibit normal functional activities. MSI is also linked to the impairment of other aspects of cognitive function, for example, attention, language, visual or executive function, including the difficulty of a person to make the right decision, for example, judge the time or sequence of steps that are required to fully execute a complex task, etc. So the use of serious games for cognitive stimulation and perhaps prevention of cognitive decline related either to healthy older adults or not is a very fast growing area of research. And in the case of MSI, these serious games offer the option actually for a low cost intervention. Additional to that, serious games require minimal medical supervision and can be played also with the assistance of formal or informal caregivers. So in this work, we aim to investigate the effectiveness of a serious gaming platform as a cognitive training tool for seniors with MSI. What the platform does, it simulates everyday activities in the context of three-dimensional world games. The tasks were designed to involve different cognitive functions. For instance, attention tasks. An example here will be the user to select, for example, ingredients to make a meal or to bake a cake. It may involve working memory tasks. An example here is shopping at a grocery store. Auditory memory tasks. Here an example is to listen and remember some news on a TV. Executive functions also. An example here is to select the appropriate clothes to wear or to arrange shoes in a shoe closet. Now, the level of difficulty within each of these tasks is gradually increased through the various game sessions. Furthermore, we developed an adaptation mechanism that provides automatic adaptation of game elements, such as the content or the game difficulty, in order to personalize the interactive experience. This adaptation mechanism is based both on static characteristics, such as user preferences and demographic data, and also is based on dynamic data that are collected during the game, and they maybe reflect the user performance. Regarding the methodology, we have gathered a number of design guidelines for serious games, reviewing related research, and also getting feedback from the experts and the end users. First of all, the design of the game must take into account the participants, of course, physiological and cognitive changes, which are related to aging, and in particular to MSI. For example, elderly have some kind of sensory loss, either visual or auditory, and this sensory loss has direct implication on game administration. So to address such challenges, we consider multisensory approaches, such as using a variety of cues, both visual and auditory. It is important to select the game topic. The game topic should be adjusted to the interests of the elderly. The user interface should be easy to use, so the participants can focus on the actual exercise. Motivating feedback is also very important to encourage play. Constructive feedback should be also given to guide and correct exercises following an errorless learning approach. And in general, all instructions should be clear and use common language. As I mentioned before, the game should offer different levels with different difficulties and allow for customized exercise with some kind of personalized content. For example, in a memory game, pictures of family are used for the game. And also there should be also a profile where the participants' progress and results can be saved. So the main idea of this study was to adopt actually a user-centered designed approach to develop and validate three-dimensional games based on daily tasks and through an adaptation engine to stimulate cognitive abilities for elderly with MSI. The players can navigate through the game to real-life activities, find the right information, complete challenges, and using gamification aspects to unlock rewards. Also, the games have to provide winning situations to advance, to boost self-confidence, and enhance the creativity of the participants by providing problems to be solved. Moreover, as I mentioned before, to keep the participant motivation high, the application should adapt game difficulty to the participant performance in a way so that the gameplay should be easy, comfortable, and enjoyable. So when the player logs in the system, the application will load the profile of the player with the latest results of the cognitive examination tests. Such an examination can be the well-known Montreal Cognitive Assessment Test. And two game profiles are defined that correspond to the cognitive levels of the participants. That is MSI mild and MSI severe. And each of these profiles dictate various degrees of game difficulty. And it is possible to switch from one profile to the other, depending on the values of a variable denoting accumulated successes in a game, and two threshold parameters, namely the level threshold severe and the level threshold mild. So, for example, in case the participant's cognitive level is MSI mild, In order to increase the difficulty level, the participant, through the playing of the game, must overcome a threshold level, which is defined as a combination of game success ratio, game completion time, the accumulated game score, and the cognitive level assessed by the cognitive tests. And the outcome of this algorithm actually dictates the degree of difficulty in order to adapt the game. An experimental evaluation was conducted to assess the feasibility and the technology acceptance of the game platform. 10 elderly were participated in this evaluation. This pilot was actually conducted in an early version of the game platform on the summer of 2019. A total of 30 evaluations were performed in a period of 12 weeks. By employing the system usability scale questionnaire, the perceived usability of the game platform was assessed. This is a well-known questionnaire, includes 10 statements with 5 scale responses from 1 to 5. 1 means denotes strongly disagree, 5 strongly agree on the statements. And the participants' answers for each statement were processed so that the original scores were converted to a 0-100 scale. The mean score obtained was 75.9, which is considered satisfactory. By analyzing the performance data collected, and in particular by comparing the average game completion time between the first and the last month of the intervention, the results show a significant difference of game performance between first month and third month. In case of MSI patients, improving the speed of successful screen completion with practice can imply some form of learning, and this is very promising evidence. So the broader goal of cognitive platform is to make it easier for elderly with MSI to achieve an increased sense of self-efficacy by improving their functionality, which, according to recent research in neuropsychology, directly contributes to both cognitive and physical health. An evaluation of the game platform regarding its cognitive improvement objective is also underway, despite the difficulties of the pandemic situation. This is our demo. I don't know if you can hear the sound. So this is how we develop. We use the Unity game engine to develop the scenes and the scenarios of the game. This is some screens of the gameplay.
Υπέροχα. Άνοιξε τη βρύση.
Where everyday tasks are required to be performed using the game interaction.
Sorry, with the sound we can't hear you. We can just hear the sound of the game.
Άνοιξε τη βρύση. Υπέροχα. Επίλεξε τα αντικείμενα και την κατάλληλη ενέργεια. Ξύρισε τα γένια σου. Μπράβο. Κλείσε τη βρύση. Επίλεξε το υπόλοιπο διαθέσιμων χρημάτων μετά την αγορά του εικονιζόμενου προϊόντος. Συμπλήρωσε το ακριβές ποσό που πρέπει να πληρώσεις, επιλέγοντας τα κατάλληλα χρήματα. Υπέροχα!
Okay, I was saying that in this video we gave some insights on how this game was developed using the Unity game platform. And also we gave some screens of the gameplay involving everyday tasks that the elderly were asked to perform. So thank you for your attention. This is the website of the project. These games were developed mainly for the Android platform, but a web version of the games is also available. Not all the games, but part of the game. And you can contact me or my colleagues also by mail. So thank you, and if you have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I think we still are a bit late, so maybe one question. Yes?
Did people like the music?
Did the people like the music?
Well, the music was for the presentation, actually, not for the actual game. But you are right. Having games that you have ambient sounds and well orchestrated and directed music helps to imagine engage to the games.
I have an actual question. So you say this for Android, but it means which kind of device the user use at the end? Is a smartphone? Is a tablet?
No. It could run on both devices, both on smartphones and tablets. But we specifically targeted tablet devices for various reasons. Portability and the larger screen is two important factors that dictate the use of such platform. Actually, currently we are performing a more long-term evaluation as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic allows us to do that. Actually, we start this last year, and we break the evaluation, and now we are continuing the evaluation. And for this evaluation, we use tablet devices and the games.
Okay, thank you. Thank you a lot. So I invite here the last speaker. I think it's better here because you have to launch the video too, I think. Yeah, just the name of the key. It's Nicolas. What's Nicolas? Epilepsy, the first. Okay. Ok, et la vidéo aussi là-dedans. Non, ah, d'intégrer. Déjà intégré. Ok. J'espère que ça passe. Sinon on fera ça. Ça doit passer.
Oui. Hi, I'm here to present the project Epilepsy. Epilepsy is a serious game about epilepsy. First, I introduce myself. I am Loïc Berthaud. I am educational engineer in the High School of Hills in Valais, and at the same time I study in the TechFA in Genova. And we have created this project during the DEFI source in here 2 months ago. The story of this project is two friends of me, Jeff and Sam, in the startup Lausanne, want to create a serious game about epilepsy because Sam have epilepsy. And after, I think we need some help about health, and I have asked some students about help this project. The student is from Nursing Team Academy from high school in Valais. And after the hackathon, we come here to present this project in this conference. First, I just present the team because team is important because we do a project without professor, without research academic, just two friends of developer and 3 students. And together, they create a serious game about epilepsy. Samuel is epileptic and Jeff is game design consultant, and the 3 students help the project like Hills referent about bibliography, different kind of tips, and some advice to be really good about literature review. So maybe you know, epilepsy in Switzerland is a little problem, we can think. 1% of the population have epilepsy, and epilepsy is a seizure. And in the same time, some children and also adolescents have epilepsy. And each year, 4,500 new diagnostics come in Switzerland. So it's not an old seizure, but it's an actual problem, and in the future, it's the same. So the context of this serious game is Samuel have epilepsy and don't find something in game to help adolescents who are diagnosed in epilepsy. And we want to find something to offer some recommendation for the daily life of these adolescents. Maybe you know, epileptic seizure can be a real barrier of the quality of the life of people because they can't go to parties, they can't sport, they can play some video games, they can be like a normal adolescent and can be really complicated. So, we have your target issue is to create like a serious game, maybe a simulation serious game to help people to understand what is really the daily life, the daily life of some adolescents who have epilepsy. So we have created a game, then people can do some activity, like normal activity, go to a shower, see a movie, go outdoor, take a rest, and they have some impact in the game. And they can transcribe the skill and knowledge they learn into the serious game, into the real life. And also, something important is the notion of the times in the game. In the game, we can repeat something 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. In the real life, it's impossible. So we can see some impact and see the consequence into the games, and with the repetition, we really understand and can repeat into the real life. So we have proposed a solution. We want to create a video game, and in this game, it can really be corresponding to his own epileptic problem. So we want, with this game, to help people to living with epilepsy and not only enjoy life, understanding the pathology, and having fun with a serious game. Because when you are an adolescent and the doctor say we will be an epileptic for all your life, it is not a good moment. And with the play and the game, it's more fun and not annoying. So, I hope, I'm not sure, but we have created the first educational epilepsy role players game. And I will show you some screenshots for some features, and after we can see a little video about the games, the beta games. So in these 2 screenshots, we can see at the beginning of the game, all participants of the game can choose different factors and can be if the factor of this epilepsy is like this or like other thing, because not all epilepsy is the same. Is to personalize the character information in the game. And also in the game, we have some different activity we can do, but with activity, it's also some impact. It can be some fun impact, like here, you can see a smiley, if it's okay or not, and the energy here. So we want to do some impact, and for course, some impact is good, and some impact is not good for someone epileptic. And the people can see this into this game and see this impact. And also, we have add other information from the literature, like some advice to help people to understand sometimes what it can do or it can't do into a game, and it don't need to find a book in the bibliothèque or need to ask a doctor, and it's more fun to see some information into smartphone. And also, like le saviez-vous into the games to add some activity more different and more interesting. So now you can see a little minute of the video games. Now we go to take one activity, choose the TV, and we can see here the energy go down, because epileptic people to see a lot of TV is not good for some kind of epilepsy. And we can see the size here. Yes, it's a game. We can do this in real life. And now he go to the rest, and
il était en train de faire une crise d'épilepsie.
And he will have a lot of energy. And of course, it's not only in a room, also a living room, and we have created another environment, and he can do some quests. For example, we have created a quest at the beginning of the game. If he go outdoor, he will win some points. I just come back, and here, in the menu, we have conseil and profile epileptic, and like I said before, each people can be different and be personalized with the epilepsy he have and the different conseil advice I speak before. And the menu, and developer, and the person who creates the games. So, what is really relevant innovation in this project? For us, is to take epilepsy, something really fun, not funny, and create a serious game as a support for adolescent diagnosis with this sickness. So we have found a lack of this kind of support in the current epilepsy ecosystem. We don't find something playful and with positive vision, more like literature or question with a doctor, or not something fun. And also, we want to create something for adolescents and be in step with the times, actually times. I think mobile is important because a lot of adolescents have smartphone and use smartphone every day, and it be digital and not like in a book or some solid place, because children and adolescents is digital, and we hope if they have a digital app with some advice, tips, and games, it can be useful. And we hope to distribute this application. For the moment, it was just a voluntary create developer app, and we will find some fun to create not only a beta, but also a stable function. For the moment, we have only a beta for Android, but we want also to create a version for iOS, for iPhone, to distribute. But we need some help for this, and we hope maybe medical team will be interested about this project, and also pharmacy and hospital, because a lot of persons with epilepsy go in this place to have some medicaments and some advice. Also, we see insurance, it may be important, because epilepsy has a cost. And if we can find another treatment to help people to don't have seizure, and it's not a cost for the insurance, it can be good. We also have taken some contacts with EpiSuisse to maybe be a partnership with this to deploy this application. But in fact, what is the public of this app? It's not only in the middle people with epilepsy, but also some friends of this person, family, roommate, because all people near someone with epilepsy need to understand this. And also, we want to use this serious game for primary and secondary school to allow some children to understand what is epilepsy. And in fact, we have created this game. So, thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask.
So we think we have time for one question. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your presentation. Do you need a certification before you can make it available?
Available in Play Store, you say? In store?
Yeah.
So, sorry, the question is, do you need a certification before you make your application available in the store?
To do, for Play Store, you just need to put the application into the Play Store. You need to pay, I think, $100 for life authorization to put application. And it's also the same in iOS Store, but you need to pay each year to put application into this kind of service. But the most complicated is to finish the app before deploy. It does not need to be a beta, but a stable version.
Okay. So, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you a lot. Yes. Going back here, I think we are still a bit late, but I would say that we can anyway have at least 5-10 minutes of break. I think move a little bit, it's good for health, so I think we can have 10 minutes of break in any case before to start the roundtable. So see you in, I don't know what time is now.
Come back at 25.
We come back at 25. for this evening.
Yes, thank you, Stefano. Just to remind you, for the one attending the social event tonight, we will wait for you at 6h15, donc 6:15 at Olympic, Ushi Olympic, just at the metro station. Please don't be too late, because then it would be very difficult for you to reach the place. It would actually not be possible, or if you are a very, very good swimmer.
Okay. So we will have to share the microphones. Welcome to this round table. We have around half an hour to discuss together. The idea here is to discuss about serious games and gamification. But the point is, sometimes this kind of technologies maybe doesn't work. And actually, it was very nice. It was reading your paper that I imagined the title for this roundtable. They said, okay, at least there is one paper they say it doesn't work, because usually when we publish something that say, okay, it works. And the idea is, if we can go a little bit beyond that, it means you have quite a lot of experience, someone a little bit less, but the idea is, when you think that you cannot use serious game or gamification in one application, or when you think there are drawbacks about that.
So in my case, I would like maybe to nuance a little bit what you have said, but it's not that it doesn't work, but it just works as good as without. But it did not deteriorate the experience, which could also be a case. And in that case, I would say it doesn't work.
Yep.
Now it was an add-on, but the positive effect was not as much as expected.
Yeah, totally. The idea is, it was now. Do you have any example in your experience, maybe, that in which you say maybe simulation is okay, but adding gamification, gamified element, adding a game is no more okay?
Oh, I don't have a specific example to give you, but I know that sometimes people are still reluctant to use that kind of solution for the training of their employees or something. So sometimes you need maybe to make more communication about it, and I think first of all you need to explain why people need to use the solution, the gamified solution, and what it can bring to them, how it can be benefit for them. So if you communicate enough, if you try enough also, because sometimes we make a project, we make a solution, but at the end it's not used at all. So I don't think I think it's always possible to adapt the solution, to adapt the way we want to diffuse it, and then I don't see a problem to not use it or to have something that doesn't work.
Okay, thank you. From the person on Zoom, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Christos. I actually echo the suggestions of the previous attendee. From my experience, it plays a great role how you choose the game mechanics. Choosing the right game mechanics is very important. It is a challenge, actually, not a drawback, but a challenge. Because in order to to develop a system and to deploy gamification properly, it needs a lot of work in advance. We must first understand our audience and what drives them, and associate these driving forces with the correct game mechanics in order to engage them. Okay, for some, leaderboards may be okay because it can trigger a competition, a friendly competition. Others may prefer to earn badges, points, or other kinds of rewards. I recall a mobile fitness application called Bonnybolt, which was based on storyline, a fictitious storyline, in which users were asked to explore different episodes of this storyline while exercising. This actually was a quest, and this quest appeared to be very attractive for young users. There's no guarantee that the same gamification tactic will be successful for other users, for example, elderly people. Working for serious games with elderly people, there are additional challenges that you must overcome. For instance, the fear of this target group of using the technology, of not making the right moves on the screen in order to play the game. So these are additional challenges that must be overcome.
Okay, thank you. Just to come back to you, so I think culture is very important factor for your audience, and I think as population, so elderly, yes, it's quite difficult. Another one that I found very difficult is teens, so teenager, because when developing for teenagers, it's almost the opposite. They don't like the serious part, but the game part, it's okay. But when it is the school that is imposing to play, maybe say, okay, maybe it's a game, but I don't like it so much because the school or the professor that imposing me to play with that. Have you experienced something like that in your applications or not?
This is very relevant. Actually, in order to let's say guarantee some success of your approach is to follow a user-centered design approach, where you ask all relevant stakeholders to be involved in the development process from the start. You need to involve users, your end users, in this development process. For example, if you have patients which are diagnosed with a certain health condition, and your application is about this health or medical condition, the patient should be involved from the first stage of the development of the application of the game. Medical staff are also very important because the seriousness of the application might be hampered in a way due to the game-like features, and therefore the medical approval is required to reassure that the users using the application will also benefit not fun, but will benefit also the health outcome perspective.
So I think that's a very good point. And for example, like your project, you integrated the user from the beginning because one of the developer was also a user. Do you have other users that you are involved or?
For the moment, for your project, we don't use another public cible, person with epileptic, because we want before to look about the ethic and to have a proof of concept, medical proof of concept, before use with epileptic. But it's really important to create a project for the user and not the developer create one project and after the project is created and sent to user and said it's okay or not. And in this kind, we have the luck to have a developer and at the same time is someone who need to use this app. And it's really important to a process, like in some serious game, to create the game with some children who need to play with this game.
Yeah, okay. And working with Indian partners, how was for you to overcome these cultural differences?
So yeah, as I said, I was not the one involved, but Max, my colleague, was doing this bridge between here, Switzerland, and India. But he was he was there for a couple of months, and in the pre-test phase, the Indian partners of the project were also very much involved at every steps of the pre-test, and also from the idea that he suggested, we could try something with the gamification, and already this idea was accepted by the Indian partners, and then the next step was, so what should we do? Then we proposed the ideas, and then, so it was, yeah, I didn't have the direct interaction, but they were very much involved, and the people were working on this project were also open, and there was also important, as I said, that we realized that some of our target users or target respondents on the field had never done a puzzle before, even though our Indian partner had and knew. So it was also more difference within India even. And
India is huge.
Exactly. And so, but then this is exactly what was said. It's very important to know who your users are and to go and test for your solutions, and then we could adapt to the product to our users.
Okay, thank you. Alberto, you have raised your hand.
Yes, I just want to say, I think it's very important, like other attendees have said, to involve the players. I don't know if I must talk about games or about simulation. I'm sorry, but I think it's very important to concern participants in the process of the game construction. I think the game or the simulation will be benefit and be more constructive by their owner implication and their owner reflections during the game, and it will be probably more benefit for all, for the conceptors and for the players, over more the technical problems, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
But also to come back to the initial question, I think, like if I consider the various projects that I have, and also one of my conclusions from today, I think more and more, and this is feedback that I receive sometimes, is actually people should have a choice, and maybe some people want to do something that is more conventional and that they are used to. And some other people have a curiosity and are very bored by this conventional approach and want something new. And in the end, maybe that's a personal preference that people have for gamified or non-gamified.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Another point that it is quite difficult when we use this kind of games for health is to assess the impact in the long term. I think it's not only serious game, but in several approach. For example, in the application of Christos, how you can assess that the game is working more than the few months or few days that your user are using the game, because nowadays a game typically for a free user, he can use it once, maybe for 2-3 weeks, then it stops. How you can assess that your game was useful?
Yes, that's another challenge. It's not a difficult task to do. It is also related to the long-term viability of the gamification on the users that you have selected. In the relevant scientific literature, there is an argument that there is an obvious short-term effect on users' motivation and engagement, but this is difficult to be sustained in long term. The users in the beginning have this enthusiasm in the game features of the application, but this is very likely to decrease in the long run. I recall from the previous roundtable in the morning session that a good strategy for this problem is to have some mixture of explicit and implicit motivation. Explicit is the features that your application is using, scores, levels, badges, etc. The implicit motivation is related more to experience some positive emotional states, which if this are accomplished, then you can have positive changes in users' behavior, and this may be help to use such applications for a long time. So application evaluation is, from our experience, is a challenge, especially for applications that have to do with some therapy or some medical or health prevention. Such applications should go should have empirical evaluations for a long time, for a long period, in order to assess and to explore the long-term appropriateness and viability of the game mechanics. There is no standard methodology to assess that, so it's a research challenge. How to assess the effectiveness of gamification in applications in health, in the health domain, in the long term.
Yeah, and also for your application, you can demonstrate that the user is improving using your application, but can you demonstrate that is improving generally? Because you deal with patients with mild cognitive impairment. Maybe it's just improving your game, but everything else is not improving.
Yeah. As a research project, we aim to find answers to those questions. What we done in our case is we follow a methodology which includes a control group and an intervention group, applying a randomized actual control trial. So what we do for all users, we do measurements of cognitive functions before and after using this platform. Of course, the intervention team has to use this platform at least 1 to 2 times per week, and at least for 24 sessions in total. We use cognitive assessment tools like model cognitive assessments and mini mental state examination. And success metrics that we may use regarding the game platform, it's the improvement on successful game completion speed or average speed, and improvement on cognitive assessment indicators, either global tests like the MOCA or the mini mental state examination, or more focused on specific cognitive domains, as were referred in the first presentation. And you may have also some qualitative measures like the sense of self-efficacy. We can analyze such quality metrics by qualitative data analysis from interviews, from spontaneous comments while using the application, or observations by the caregivers, because most of the time elderly users are not able to use the application by themselves, so a caregiver, an informal caregiver, helps them. And the observations and notes from these caregivers is very important. So in our case, this is the approach that we follow to answer questions like that.
Thank you. I think it was very nice answer, very scientifically based answer. So it was very nice. Just curious, actually, in your application. So when you have to interact with users, so you create games and so on. Also, in your case, you say, okay, if we can play the game once, the whole game, it's okay. He has already learned everything, and now he can go well in the real world. Or you have some other metrics that you can use.
So for our part, as I explained, our products are not made to be a one-shot thing. It's something that students or learners generally can use as many times as they want, and it's also something that is a part of a complete learning path with other training with their teachers, with the classroom and other digital training, etc. So we do not think that only the simulation or a digital training solution is key to make them prepared enough to go on the real life, or etc. It's really something that needs to be a part of a whole thing with a complete journey path. So
okay. Also, maybe when they go in the real life, they have not to stop to use the game. They also can.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And for us, for your project with epilepsy, repetition is important. We think if the people can use the app not only one time, but can each day or like they want, do a repetition and see the activity and the impact of the activity, and not only one time, it can be more easy to have this knowledge into the real world. So it's not really the one-shot games, but more games to people play sometimes and can understand the life of an epileptic person.
Okay, nice. Do you think the score that they can achieve in the game match with the knowledge that can have real world?
I think for the moment can say only no, but maybe in the future, if you have some more data to understand the player and what they done into the games, we can do something like this. But it's too early to want to implement something like this into the app. But it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Do you know, from the audience are questions about limitations, drawbacks, or serious game, or gamification? If it is not the case, I think we are really on time to, to close the session. I see some.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
So much, the audience and people online. We will close the session and we will also close the day. We will see you. Tomorrow morning, hopefully. And concerning the social event, of course, I was talking about the people that are sont inscrits, comment tu dis ça? That registered. Please don't come if you are not registered. I will have a big issue. But please come if you have registered. I will have another big issue if you're not coming. Thank you so much again, and see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.